Well, the good news is I have a book that is about 70 to 75% completed. I mean, written, not reading. I've read several, but 70 to 75% completed in its writing. That's the good news. The bad news is it was about 50% written in 2004. Yep, 12 years and I'm still working on the same book. Now, I've finished 2 others since then. But each year I keep putting this book in my list of goals to get done for the year. And here we are 3 weeks from the end of the year and it's not yet done again. Well, why is that? Well, another one of my goals for this year, my New Year's resolution, was to lose 25 pounds. I lost it, I gained it back, I lost it, I gained it back, I lost it, I gained it back. Eventually I have lost nothing. Why is that? I also have a set of attitude series of videos, audio teachings that I've completed. The audio set is completely done. The video set has been redone in a better format. And yet the book, no, not so much. It could have been 10 chapters of a very nice book, probably 40,000 words by now, but not written. Just recorded, but not written. Why is that? Well, I think the truth is a powerful reality that we all have to deal with, especially when it comes to goal setting. Many of us find our New Year's resolutions to be a plethora of things that we want to accomplish or results that we want to have, but we haven't yet built the habits necessary to get them done. I do have a persistent and consistent habit of being right here early in the morning to produce this video for you. I've been doing that since May and consistently being here, except when I was in Facebook jail or when I was someplace else at this time of morning. But even then, I've tried, whether it was in Mountain Home or in Branson, Missouri, or even just recently when I was at the hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, doing a fundraiser event for someone else. I still do everything that I can to be here to do this video. That's one good habit that I'm in, and I've been consistent and persistent with it. But some of the other good habits that need to be created in my life, I just haven't taken the discipline and the time to do it. So I want to ask you, when you look forward into 2017, are there some things that you hope by New Year's Eve of 2017 that you can look back and say, I actually accomplished those. I did write my book. I did get that new video series off the ground. I did launch that new business. I did learn how to become self-sufficient and self-employed. Whatever those goals and strategies are, I mean, they're yours. They're your business. But have you done the things necessary to make the results happen? No one runs a marathon starting today, right? If the marathon is on Monday, are you ready? Well, if you haven't been training for months, the answer is no. No couch potato jumps off the couch on Friday and runs a marathon on Saturday. You've got to be training. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be doing the things every day that lead to that success. Those eventualities are not going to happen to you by accident. There is no success in life that will chase you down and bludgeon you until you accept it. Doesn't happen like that. If you want goals to be attained, if you want successes to be achieved, if you want accomplishments piled up in your corner, you have to go get them. Let me remind you of one other thing too. There is no obstacle in life that will chase you down while you're sitting on the couch doing nothing. They don't do that. Obstacles don't care. Obstacles are not at all concerned with your sedentary lifestyle. Whether that's mentally, intellectually, educationally, emotionally, physically, career-wise, whatever it is in your life that you're stagnant and not moving at all. Obstacles don't care about those things. Obstacles are for those who are moving. Imagine a hurdler, our wonderful Zeke Elliott with the Dallas Cowboys in his 100-meter hurdle sprint. If he stood at the start line when the gun went off and never budged, not one of those hurdles in the next 100 meters would come to him. Not one. It doesn't happen. Every one of those hurdles would stay right where they are, and he would not encounter a single hurdle until he begins moving. And then as he begins moving, the first hurdle comes at him. And the faster he runs, the faster the hurdle comes. The faster you move toward progress in your life, the faster the obstacles come, the faster the hurdles come. And you know what you have to get in the practice of? Hurdling. You've got to get in the practice of throwing that front leg in the air, leaning forward to keep your balance and be ready to land on it. Pull that back leg up off the ground and let the momentum of your day carry you over that hurdle. It's when we get out of whack, we get out of balance, we're not ready for that first hurdle. Then we stumble and we fall into the second hurdle. And by the time we get to the third hurdle, we're sliding under it or falling over it. I'm sure you've seen those videos. If you haven't, just look back at your last year or go to YouTube and type in hurdler fails. And you'll see how many times people have stepped on the base plate of the hurdle so that it doesn't fall over, they fall into it. They trip over it and fall on it. When we don't prepare for the things that are coming in our life, the things that are inevitable, the obstacles that we know are going to come, you're going to have friends when you start getting successful who are going to try to pull you down. They're hurdles. You're going to find that just because you've invested in this new educational course, that some other bill has popped up out of nowhere. Something that you didn't remember that you owed, or a flat tire that you didn't realize wasn't just going to be an $8 flat repair, but you're going to have to replace the whole tire. It's called life. It happens. That's why Dave Ramsey says you should always have $1,000 in the savings account. I failed at that. We get $1,000 and then poof, something happens that takes the whole thing away. But having $1,000 margin has always been a challenge for us. He says have $1,000 in there, and then eventually you want 6 months worth of income. So if you lose your job, you're not in a panic mode. You've got time to do it right to go get another job. Well, those are easy goals to attain if you have a habit. Do you have a habit of saving? Do you have a habit of setting money aside? Do you have a habit of setting time aside? See, if I had a habit of setting time aside, then I could have my book done. But I don't. I drive my brain so hard most of the day because it's not portioned out. It's running from one crisis to another, that by the time I get home, I'm a vegetable. I just want to sit on the couch and stare off into space for a while. We have to have the discipline and the habits that lead toward the goals that we want to accomplish. Any goal that you want to achieve in life probably isn't going to happen if you're the only one that you know that knows that you have that goal. If you haven't told anyone else, I'm going to accomplish this, then there'll be no one to ask you, hey, how are you doing on that? I want to finish my book. Great. Who has asked me? How are you coming on that book? Can I see what you've written so far? Can I see what you've written since the last time I asked you this question? Let me ask you this. Are you the type of friend that if someone were to say to you, hey, I have a goal, I want to accomplish this, that you would call them from time to time or send them an email or send them a text message or a private message on Facebook and go, how's that coming? I'd love to see your progress since the last time we talked about this. Are you that kind of friend? Maybe if you were that kind of friend, you'd have friends who are like that. Just saying. The idea of having goals and telling no one about them is really kind of our own fear-based way of not being held accountable for our goals. Not being in that place where we feel like, well, I didn't accomplish them, but no one knows that, so I couldn't have been a failure, right? We want to not only have those goals clearly defined in our heads, we want to clarify what it is that we want to accomplish. I want to write a book. I want to lose 25 pounds. I want to get a pay raise. I want to start a new job, launch a new venture, whatever it is. The first thing you got to do is get clear on what it is and why you want it. Because if you know what it is that you want, but you don't know why you want it, the motivation to keep going after it is going to diminish. And it's going to fade until nothing happens. If you can look at the why that you want it and put that right next to it and go, I want to finish this book because I believe it will change people's lives. Great. Whose life is it going to change? How is it going to change their life? Define that why a little bit better so that you can feel the pain of failing at it every time you fail to do it. That'll give you a little more emotional motivation to get it done. So know what it is that you want. Know why that you want it. Tell someone that you want to accomplish this goal, that this is a serious determination for 2017. I am going to get this book written. I am going to get this new video series done. I am going to get this new course online. Whatever it is, set those goals for yourself. I'm going to stop using that kind of language. I'm going to stop eating that kind of food. I'm going to start exercising in this way. And don't just set so many goals that when you look at it, you have a buffet of problems to overcome and a variable set of whys that aren't related to each other. When those things begin to come in harmony and they begin to move together, I want to stop eating this kind of food and start eating that kind of food. That's an exchange program. I want to stop eating this kind of food, start eating this kind of food, and exercise. Well, those kind of go together. Well, why do you want to do that? If the why for all three of those is the same, motivation is going to be even easier to achieve because you don't have to change your emotional state to move from one to the other. If I want to do this so that I'll live longer and spend more time with my children and my grandchildren, then it's going to be a whole lot easier to eat the right foods, not eat the wrong foods, and exercise, and roll all those in together. Because every time the temptation comes to not do it, or the temptation comes to eat the wrong thing, or the temptation comes to avoid the good things, the one motivator of I want to see my grandchildren graduate from college, that can be a strong motivator. But you got to get a hold of it because that's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take 12 to 15 to 18 years for that to happen. You better be ready to do this for a long time. You've got to have the longevity. So now you've decided what it is that you want. You found the why that you want it. You've attached multiple goals together so that each accomplishment is an incremental accomplishment. You've told someone, I want to achieve this weight. I see myself at 185. I see myself eating only healthy foods. I see myself in no addiction to sugar. I see myself finishing the book. I see myself with a new job. I see myself, whatever your goal or accomplishment is, see yourself doing it. And tell someone, and then write it down. Write it down and put it in a prominent place so that every time you see it, you remind yourself. Now, for the first several times that you see that goal, you're going to be frustrated by it because you're going to see it and go, I don't feel like I'm any closer to it than I was the day that I wrote it down. If you stay at it, if you build the habits, if you do the work necessary to pull it off, as the year progresses, you're going to be able to look back at it and go, I thought in January there's no way this would be done. I knew in February I was going to quit. And by March I thought certainly there's no way. And then in April, suddenly a breakthrough. And everything began to change. And here I am in May. I've already accomplished my goals for the year. I have to set new ones. That's a reality that happens to more people than you could possibly imagine. The problem is most people quit in February. If they make it through the end of January. They set New Year's resolutions instead of attainable goals. They don't look at the process and the true, genuine science behind goal setting. I've shared a link in this particular video post. It's right down there at the bottom. Michael Hyatt is a best-selling author. He was a CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing for many, many years. He's a very bright guy, very well-connected guy. Lots of friends and influencers around the world, people that he influences as well. But Michael Hyatt has done a lot of research in the idea of goal setting, but not just goal setting, goal achieving. How is it that you go from just writing down your goals and staring at them and letting them feel like an oppressor over you that's constantly reminding you you haven't reached 185 pounds, you haven't eaten the right foods, you haven't left the wrong foods, you haven't finished writing the book, you haven't repaired your relationship with so-and-so, you haven't got that new job or prepared yourself for it or finished your resume, or gotten that next level of education, whatever it is that goal is that you've set. By January's end, by February's beginning, are we looking at ourselves and still going, why am I not accomplishing these things? Well, there's a difference between goal setting and goal achieving. And there is a mental science reality to goal achieving that's a little bit different than most people take. There's a reason New Year's resolutions fail most of the time. And it's the reason, sadly enough, that most people say, I'm never setting another New Year's resolution. I will never vocalize another New Year's resolution because every time I do, I just mess them up. They never happen for me. Nothing happens in my life that changes for the better because I set New Year's resolutions. Well, that's probably true because you're going about the process wrong. Now, I know that there are goals and accomplishments that I've achieved in my life, things that I set out to do, and the why was strong enough and the motivation was there, and I did the work until I accomplished them. And many of those things I've accomplished and set aside and went, I wanted to know that I could accomplish that at that level, and I'm done with that. I've proved it to myself, and I'm good. Some of them have become lifestyle habits that have been permanently changed in my life. Some of them were one-time accomplishments. I remember in August of 2010, I said, I want to win a Toastmasters contest. I had no idea if Toastmasters had contests. I didn't belong to Toastmasters. I didn't know what it was required to win a Toastmasters contest or what magnitude that would be. But in the next couple of weeks, I joined a Toastmasters. And I finished my first 10 speeches, my competent communicator, between August and Thanksgiving. I also competed in a club contest and won. I competed in an area contest and I won. In a division contest and I won. In a district contest and I won. And I found myself at the international semifinals for the World Championship of Public Speaking. And it took less than 1 year. I reached that level. I went over my time and disqualified myself in the semifinals. But my only ambition when I set out to do that was to win a Toastmasters contest. I didn't ever set the goal of winning the international speaking contest. But after competing against 35,000 people and finding myself in the final 82, I was sufficiently impressed with myself. And I haven't gone back to try again. Why? Well, my goal was never to be the world champion of public speaking. That wasn't what I set out to do. What I set my sight on was to win a competition, and I did. Now, is that good or is that bad? Well, I guess it all depends on where you stand, right? If my goal had been to win the championship, then I failed. That wasn't the goal that I established. Did I establish the goal wrong? I don't know. I accomplished the goal that I set out to, and I've moved on to other things. When we talk about setting specific goals, though, that's the purpose for setting a specific goal. At what point have you achieved it? See, that's the reason that people say set what we call SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relatable? That's not the right one. You'll have to look it up. I can't remember what the R is, but the T is time-bound. When we don't set specific goals, I want to win a Toastmasters contest. Well, I did. In fact, I won 5 or 6. That was awesome. But it wasn't the end game to win the world championship, and so I didn't. If you set a goal of losing weight rather than a specific weight that you want to achieve, if you lose 5 pounds, you accomplished your goal, right? But did you really? If you lose 10 pounds, then what? Well, you've accomplished your goal. But did you really? You follow me? See, if you don't set goals that are specific and measurable, that you can look at and go, here's where I started and here's where I am today. I'm this much closer. I'm this much closer to where I was. I'm this much closer. I'm this much closer. I'm only this far away. If you don't know what that distance is, if I know that right now I have a book that's about 75% done, then I have 25% of a book to finish. Well, what does that mean? Well, that probably means wrapping up a chapter or two, maybe writing 1 or 2 complete chapters that are not done yet, and then the finishing touches of the editing and the formatting and the book cover and getting it out there to be for sale. The sad thing is that I've gone from the 50% done mark 10, 12 years ago to the 75% mark over 12 years. Why? Because I just haven't finish that book by this date as a goal. I never have. It's always kind of been a back burner thing. It's an unusual topic. It's not a mainline topic. It's not something that everybody's going to be beating the doors down to buy. So I figure, well, whenever the time is, if it ever finishes, then it'll be a legacy book more than anything else. I need to set a specific goal. Here's the date I want to have it finished. Here's how many words that book should be when I'm finished. In order to achieve that, I have to take the total number of words that are left and divide them by the days that I want to achieve that by and figure out how many words I need to write each day. Oh, that's interesting. I want to run a marathon. Great. Well, how long is it going to take to train for a marathon? There are running programs out there that will tell you how long it's going to take you to train for a marathon. So you can look down the road and go, well, the XYZ marathon, the Cowtown marathon if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the Boston marathon if you're in the Northeast. I don't know what kind of marathons they run in the Middle East, but if you're running a marathon and you know the date of it is in August, then you have plenty of time to prepare. How many miles do you need to run each day to be prepared for a marathon in August? Or a marathon in March? Can it be done to run in a marathon in March? Can you be prepared for that? I am not a marathon runner. I don't know the answer to that question, but someone does. And you could probably find it on YouTube or just type it into Facebook and let somebody tell you. My point, though, is that for every goal that you want to achieve, there is a process to achieve it. For everything that you want to accomplish in 2017, there is a way to accomplish it. But there's a process that goes beyond goal setting and moves into goal achieving, and that process you'll have to learn because not everyone understands it clearly. I remember hearing Paul Martinelli talk a couple of years ago about goals, and he said something very fascinating. And it's not just in goals, in our human, personal, individual life goals that this happens. It's a result-oriented measurement problem that we have. And by that I mean, if you were to look at the limbic system of the brain, the way that the brain operates, all of the input comes in through the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind gathers and processes information 400 times faster than does the conscious mind. The conscious mind also tends to argue with information that comes to it. You touch a hot stove and you go, well, that didn't really, is it really hot? I think it's hot. Maybe it's hot. Psst, oh, yeah. Blisters. It's hot. Yeah, I probably should have known that the first time, right? The subconscious mind doesn't argue like that. The subconscious mind doesn't know if what you told it is true or not, so it just acts on what it's told. The good and bad of that can be that if you're receiving misinformation or disinformation or lies, and you're allowing your subconscious mind to react to those things and drive your behaviors and drive your feelings and drive your emotions, then you can be led down a path very quickly that's going the wrong way. Well, here's one source of misinformation that we all as humans tend to fall into, the trap of. And as humans, we carry this into our leadership skills. We carry this into our parenting skills. We carry this into our emotional and relational skills very, very easily. And most of the time, we don't even realize we're doing it. Have you ever had a performance evaluation, whether you're the evaluator or the evaluatee? You're the person who they're looking at your job going, man, you have not accomplished what we expected you to this year. Or you're the person who's doing the evaluation and saying, I wish you had done this, or I wish you had done that better, but you haven't. And so, right, so there's a friction that goes on there. Well, here's kind of what that tends to do when it comes to goal setting. We think about something in the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and it drives our behavior. The subconscious mind usually drives our feelings and emotions and behavior even faster. And so we do what we're thinking and feeling about. That energy of emotion carries us into action. And then the action creates results. What happens in a performance review many, many times is we look at that little box with a big red R in it. We look at the results. We look at the goals that have been established and the results that have been achieved, and we compare goals with results. And when the results don't match the goals, we often do two things with that information. Number one, information comes back that says to us, these are the goals, these are your results, you're a failure. These are the goals, these are your results, you didn't achieve them, that makes you a failure. We tell ourselves that, we tell our employees that, we tell our teammates that, we tell our company that. Our goal was $10 million in annual sales, we made $7 million, you failed. We only made it to 75% of our goal, we failed. Well, that negative emotion, that negative source of information coming back going, you didn't achieve your goals, that makes you a failure, becomes an equation that we live with, and we look at ourselves and go, we're just failures. That's all there is to it. I can't seem to get it done. And the longer we tell ourselves that, the more likely we are to believe it. And then it seeps into every other area of our life. Remember, the subconscious mind never asks the question, is that true? And it moves 400 times faster than the conscious mind. The argument becomes an emotional reality. The argument that these were our goals, this is what I accomplished, therefore I'm a failure, begins to seep into every other area of our life. I didn't just fail at my job reaching that $10 million goal, I failed in my life. And we begin to fail in relationships. And we begin to think negatively of ourselves. And we begin to behave as if failure is us, rather than failure is something we did, rather than we have a goal that we didn't achieve. Now, there's one other exacerbating problem that comes behind that, and that is that oftentimes an organization, a manager, a leader, rather than looking at that person and going, okay, well, we made 70% of our goal or 75% of our goal, and celebrating that success, they demean that failure and then change the goal to the lower standard. That's got to be one of the biggest emotional and morale driving problems in corporate America today. Individuals have this problem. Corporations have this problem. Entrepreneurs have this problem. Families have this problem. Well, I thought little Johnny would be reading by the time he was going into second grade. Well, he's not reading. He must be learning disabled. Let's put him in a different class. Rather than doing the diligent work of saying, how could we move the needle? We look at the final result and say the final result is a failure, therefore the individual is a failure or the organization is a failure. So the only thing that we can do to achieve our goal is to lower our standards, to lower our goal, to lower our expectations. My friends, that's not the right answer. Well, then what is the right answer? The right answer is to back up a little bit and let's start asking the question of results sooner. See, if I'm starting at the end of the runway and I know that at the landing distance of 2,500 feet, that I've got to get that aircraft on the ground and keep it in a straight line for 2,500 feet, I don't measure at 2,500 feet. I ask that question at 3 feet, at 30 feet, at 300 feet, at 330 feet. I keep asking that question, am I on track? 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 If I know that to write a new book, I need to write 40,000 words over the course of the year, then I could target myself to write 4,000 words a month. Well, that's 1,000 words a week. Well, that's 250 words every working day. If I write 250 words a day, that's what most people text, by the way, just in case you're curious, because we speak at a rate of about 150. We read at a rate of about 300. Most people will text 300 words a day with no problem. If that was a consistent thought process and a valuable thought process, every human you know with a smartphone has written an entire book over the course of the year. Now, some of it's absolute gibberish and it's useless as far as information or education for anybody else, but getting the amount of words on paper is not as complicated as you think. The challenge is we haven't measured it between point A and point B. We look at the end result, the final achieved goal, and we go, I failed. Well, incrementally, you failed. If you looked at it in February and said, okay, I'm 2,000 words behind, I'm going to take a weekend and a cup of coffee and I'm going to go write. In fact, I'm going to get up on Saturday morning before anybody else gets up and I'm going to sit down with my laptop and I'm not going to stop until I hit 2,000 words. You know, most word processing documents have a little word counter down in the bottom left corner of the screen. Just go to your options and you can turn it on. And so as you're typing, and if you don't use Scrivener or something like that, you can begin to use that. It'll turn off everything else on your screen. It won't even let Facebook notifications pop up on your screen. So you can write without being interrupted. And you write until you see 2,000 words. And don't go back and edit it. Don't ask the question, was that great stuff or not? Express yourself and get 2,000 words on the page. If you do that every week, you'll have 100,000 words by the end of the year. But here's where we fail. We get to the end of the year and go, only wrote 20,000 words. I guess I'm a failure. I'm not an author. Well, no, you're probably an author. You just haven't disciplined yourself to the purpose of writing. You probably are a great salesman. You missed your sales goal by 25%. That's not an abysmal failure. That's a diligence thing. Let's back up. When did you get off target? Were you at your goal on Monday? Were you at your goal on Friday? Were you at your goal at the end of March? Were you at your goal at the end of August? Where was it that things went south? Was there a change in the economy, a change in your job, a new product line, the end of an old product line, a big customer that you lost? So we can't just measure the end result and call ourselves a failure. nor can we simply move the standard or change the goal. We've got to back up and look at incremental goals. Now, I've told you a lot of things today when it comes to goal setting. And every one of those things, you need a coach to walk you through that process. If you've never set goals that way, just put your name in the comments here. I promise you, there are more coaches, certified life coaches. In fact, I have almost 5,000 friends, and I know for a fact that there are 11,000 plus John Maxwell certified leadership coaches, of which I am one. And I'll promise you there are 1,200 friends in my friends list who are certified leadership coaches. If you will comment at the bottom of this video, I need a coach, someone from JMT will reach out to you. And I promise you, anywhere you are on this globe, there is a John Maxwell coach that you could meet with via Skype, via phone, or over coffee. There are hundreds of them right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. There are dozens in my church. I know they are everywhere because when Cherie puts together the event every year, there are about 50 that show up just from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I know there are plenty. Right here, there's Michael Jarman, lives right here in Cedar Hill. He would be glad to sit down and chat with you and work through your goals as a certified leadership coach who can walk you through that process. I would be delighted to. I just don't have time with my full-time job now. But for those of you who want someone who's not going to show up at your house or charge you for a coaching session, I've included the link to Michael Hyatt's 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever. And it includes all of the tools over the 5 days of that process to walk you through what is a goal? How do I set a goal? How do I define a goal? How do I know that it's an achievable goal? What about the mind sciences behind goal setting versus goal achieving? How do I do that? You can click that link and go right into it. There's webinar information. There's teaching information. There's plenty of data and demonstration before you make a buying decision for you to choose whether 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever is the right tool for you. But if you just looked at one book, if you just completed one book, and I use that because it's close to my own heart, if you used that goal of one book and thought, if I could just sell 20 of that book, if you could finish the book, produce the book, and sell the book in 1 year, selling 20 of those books would be more in your pocket than the cost of that program. That's not hard ROI. But I'm going to tell you right now, whatever that goal is, whether it's getting to a specific weight, building or rebuilding a specific relationship, improving your job standings, improving your educational goals, finishing the book, finishing the product, launching your business, whatever it is. If you don't start to plan now, New Year's Eve is going to hit you in the face like a Mack truck. And on New Year's Day, you're going to go, well, I didn't write any resolutions because they never work anyway. I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to tell you again and again and again and again, I may repeat this same lesson from now through the end of the year until you get it, until everyone has heard it. It's absolutely essential that you plan for success in 2017. It will not hunt you down. But also be aware when you plan for success and you start moving toward it, that's when you're going to find the hurdles. They've been there all along. They're not hunting you personally. But they don't chase you because they don't move. But they're there when you move. So whatever the goal is that you're going to set, you're going to find hurdles. Whatever accomplishments you want to go after, you're going to find hurdles. They're there to make you better. Face them with power and courage and why. Understand why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And in case you're curious, what are some of the goals that you need to set? Here's one for you. Summing it all up, be agreeable. Be sympathetic. Be loving. Be compassionate. And be humble. That goes for all of you. No exceptions, no retaliation, no sharp-tongued sarcasm. Instead, bless. That's your job. Bless. You'll be a blessing, and you'll be blessed. That comes from 1 Peter chapter 3. I really hope that today's lesson has been worthwhile for you, that you really will look at 2017 and go, there are some things that I know that I need to accomplish while I'm on this earth, and I am going to get started now. Set some specific measurable increments along the way. If I'm going to finish my book by December the 1st, I have to write X number of words by January 31st. And then hold yourself accountable and get a friend who will hold you accountable. I don't care if you don't even like the person, but you know that you see him at Starbucks every day. Ask him, hey, would you just glance over here from time to time and see that I'm actually reading what I said I was going to, or writing what I said I was going to, and just elbow me if I'm not. Just a gentle nudge. There are people who will hold you accountable. Sometimes you won't like them because they look like hurdles. But if you'll set your goals, if you'll tell people what those goals are, and you'll find the incremental ways, you can get it done. I am J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day and an awesome 2017.